I'm not against the recent surge in retro-style games. In fact, the next major review on this channel will also feature a game in this style. Dagger Directive is a throwback to a nearly extinct style of FPS that thrived in the late 90s. It closely resembles the early Delta Force games before Delta Force Black Hawk Down, which introduced more modern mechanics to the franchise. Even its name, Dagger Directive, could be a nod to Delta Force Task Force Dagger, one of the franchise's more well-known entries. The game also brings to mind other classics from that era, such as the early Ghost Recon games and Operation Flashpoint Cold War Crisis. With that being said, Dagger Directive is a throwback with some modern touches. The demo that we're exploring today includes a training mission, which essentially is an obstacle course and a firing range, along with one full mission. Microprose has been bringing a lot of these retro-style games lately, and I've been enjoying most of them. That's what first sparked my interest here as well. Dagger Directive embraces retro graphics, something longtime viewers of this channel know I don't weigh too heavily when reviewing games. With that said, I wouldn't call the visuals bad. They're intentionally stylized and pixelated, clearly paying homage to the classics that inspired it. The gun models feel a bit wonky here and there, and the classic 90s approach of no aiming down sights makes a return here. If you're using a scoped weapon, you'll get a small zoom window just like in the old school shooters. The environments and enemies look decent enough. Nothing groundbreaking, but they fit well within the visual style we've seen across many retro shooters. What makes this game stand out is its throwback to an older era of tactical shooters rather than the typical boomer shooter approach that most retro FPS games take. While many of those focus on fast-paced corridor or arena combat, Dagger Directive leans more into the methodical, tactical gameplay, staying true to the classics that inspired it. The gameplay premise is pretty straightforward. You're part of a multinational special forces team carrying out missions across the globe. Your base of operations is a ship, allowing for rapid deployment worldwide. In the mission we played, we were inserted via helicopter, which seems to be the standard approach here. Before each mission you have a wide selection of weapons and loadouts to choose from, reminiscent of the systems we've seen in games like Recon and Operation Flashpoint, where you can actually prepare your loadout prior to a mission. Dagger Directive takes this a step further. You need to carefully consider weight, mobility, and your overall strategy. The game's open-ended maps allow you to approach objectives however you see fit. If you opt for a heavy loadout, you'll bring some serious firepower at the cost of mobility. If you go in light, and stealth becomes a more viable option. Adding to this depth, you can also freely choose your mission time. Launch a daytime assault with overwhelming force, or opt for night operations utilizing silencers and night vision for a more tactical approach. The demo mission featured here is fairly straightforward. You have to deploy, locate and destroy 2 weapon caches, eliminate the main target as a bonus objective, and then exfiltrate. I first attempted the mission with a heavy loadout, which essentially let me mow down hordes of enemies with brute force. You're not nearly as fragile as in games like Operation Flashpoint, but then again, the gameplay focus is quite different here as well. For my second run, I opted for a stealthier night operation using suppressed weapons and trying to avoid unnecessary combat. This approach worked well enough, but one major issue stood out: the AI feels very rudimentary and could use significant improvement. Enemies, especially at night, are almost completely ineffective, likely due to their lack of night vision equipment. While that makes sense in some cases, their overall behavior still feels underdeveloped. A particularly odd thing is their obsession with smoke grenades. They seem to spam them excessively, as if it's their default response to any engagement. When it comes to sound design, well, I guess the menu track is cool. No, seriously, the weapon sounds are satisfyingly meaty, especially when paired with the impactful effects. Whether you're sniping enemies with a heavy caliber rifle or watching mortars rain down, the audio does a great job of selling the power behind every shot and explosion. The enemy voice lines are surprisingly decent, especially for an indie game. They don't make you cringe, and honestly, that's the biggest thing I ask of them. However, the game could use some more ambient sounds. When you're lying in a building, waiting for the right moment to strike, the dead silence becomes almost uncomfortable. I'm not asking for heavy metal blasting in the background, but some subtle environmental noises, distant gunfire, wildlife, wind would go a long way in making the world feel more immersive. Don't get me wrong, there are some ambient sound effects that play here and there, but I feel like we could use some more of those, especially inside of buildings. Some audio effects are rather strange as well, like the helicopter sounds strange to me a little bit. Your footsteps are also, well, strange, but generally these are things that can easily be fixed. Overall, Dagger Directive looks promising, especially for fans of the older school of tactical shooters. If you're interested, the demo is available right now and you can find a link in the pinned comment. For me, this was a solid first impression and I'll definitely be keeping an eye on this one. So what do you think? Did you try the demo yourselves? Let me know in the comments and feel free to suggest any other games or demos you'd like to see covered. So thanks for watching, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.